I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. Today, I've got a recipe that almost made it on my list of ones that were just too easy to fix. But I think it's still worth doing. One, just simply because I suspect that this is going to be so bleh that it really deserves to be redeemed. And secondly, the redemption that I have in mind is worth making all on its own. So, to that effect, today we are looking at the Velveeta Star Casserole. Please gaze upon its beauty. I realize the text is a little hard to read. It's a kind of a low-res scan. So let me treat you to a dramatic reading. It starts off with, for a full recipe here, 3 Velveeta sandwiches. And they don't really say much about that other than the fact that they are sandwiches that have Velveeta in them. Doesn't say anything about whether you're supposed to put meat or any sort of spread or anything like that. 2 pieces of bread and some Velveeta in the middle. Okay, then it says, using 2 tablespoons of butter or parquet margarine, and 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 cups of milk and seasoning. Make a cream sauce. So that is essentially a bechamel. Seasoning, usually bechamel includes a little bit of nutmeg in it, but whether you put that in this or not, I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference. So, make a cream sauce. Stir into this a half a pound of sliced Velveeta cheese. Whatever your opinion of Velveeta, that's what the recipe says. When melted, add 2.5 cups of cooked vegetables, mixed vegetables. Pour half the sauce into a casserole. Arrange the sandwiches, point up, and you've made these sandwiches. You cut the crusts off and cut them on the diagonal. So they make these nice little points. Arrange the sandwiches with the points up, add the remainder of the sauce, shove in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. Enjoy. I don't think it'll be horrible. I mean, bread, a Mornay sauce made with Velveeta, and some cooked vegetables. I think it's just going to be for our modern palate. This might just be a little plain. But easy enough to do, easy enough to fix. Let's just try it out.
Okay, recipe says to start by making a Velveeta sandwich. Well, Velveeta, 2 slices of bread, done. And then it says to trim the crusts and cut on the diagonal. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to trim off some of the excess bit of bread here to the shape and size of my slice of Velveeta. And I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to start my cheese sauce by melting some butter in a small saucepan. And once it stops foaming, I'm going to add an equal amount by weight of all-purpose flour. Yes, I'm making a roux. In this case, it's about 2 tablespoons worth of roux. So a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of flour. Cook for a couple of minutes to kind of cook some of that raw flour flavor out, dill up some color, and then I'm going to add milk. And it's going to be about 1.5 cups in this case. I'm going to keep whisking that and trying to dig into the corners as much as I can with my whisk until this comes up, back up to a simmer and starts to thicken. At which point I'm going to start adding my Velveeta a little bit at a time. I have slices here, so I'm just going to add a couple slices at a time. If you actually had a block of Velveeta, obviously it would be small handfuls of shredded Velveeta cheese. And wait for each batch to melt before adding the next. And on top of that, I'm adding some black pepper and some cooked mixed vegetables. And pour half of this mixture into an oven-proof dish, like a casserole. Submerge my Velveeta sandwiches in this, points up, and then pouring the rest of the cheese sauce on top. I'm going to put this into a 400-degree oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. Basically, you're going to try and brown the cheese, and the sandwich points should start to toast a bit.
So, aside from developing a rather plasticky sheen over the top, it doesn't look offensive. I think well, I'm hoping the slices of bread have become soaked enough that they'll be softer, and I won't be picking up like whole slices of bread, because this really does look like a knife and fork sort of thing. Cheesy. And steaming hot. Okay. It's melted Velveeta with vegetables and bread. I mean, honestly, you basically made fondue. Not good fondue, but fondue. My thinking is, if you're going to do a fondue, just do a fondue. Sorry, Kraft, but use a better cheese. Tastes like, Velveeta, like American cheese slices, which, sure, for some of us may be nostalgic for a part of our childhood when we ate plastic food, but this really isn't all that inspiring if one looks for inspiration from one's food. Definitely, if you want to go in the fondue direction, that is certainly delicious. But if you have to have a sandwich with a cheese sauce on it, might I suggest?
Okay, today we're going to make a croque monsieur. In a saucepan, we're going to make a cream sauce by adding some butter, melting it down, and once it stops foaming, add in an equal volume of flour. Does this sound familiar? Yes, I'm making a roux. Cook that for a few minutes until it starts to brown a bit. Then add some seasoning, salt, pepper, and some thyme. Stir that in along with some milk. Now I'm making a bunch of cream sauce, so this is going to take probably about 2.5 cups worth of milk by the time I'm done. Cook that for a bit until it thickens and then set aside. On a lined baking sheet, you could do that with just foil, or in this case I have a Silpat. I have some nice crusty bread, and I'm spreading some whole grain mustard on this. Next, I'm layering on some slices of ham, and I kind of like the folding technique. It gives it a little bit more texture and height. Next, add a even layer of your bechamel sauce, and by the way, I forgot to mention the nutmeg that I added to the sauce. That makes it a classic bechamel sauce. Once that's spread evenly, a layer of shredded Gruyere cheese. And on top of that, a sprinkling of herbe de Provence. It's a combination of herbs in classical French cooking. Place this under a broiler for 2 to 3 minutes until bubbly and just starting to turn good and brown. true confession time. The croque monsieur that you just saw us make didn't last long enough for me to actually do much more photography than what you just saw. And there's a good reason for that. They are delicious. Creamy, cheesy, crunchy, herby, meaty, little bit salty. It really doesn't get much better than that. In terms of a simple open-faced sandwich with cream sauce, cheese sauce on top, it really doesn't get much better than that. Unless possibly putting a fried egg on top. That turns it from a croque monsieur to a croque madame, because it's wearing a hat, and ladies wear hats, I guess. So, on that note, I think you can see that just doing a croque monsieur is so much better than the Velveeta Star sandwich, or excuse me, casserole. It's neither really a satisfying sandwich, nor is it really a casserole. So it's hard for me to really quantify what the Velveeta Star Casserole really is, other than, somebody dropped a sandwich into a fondue. If you're going to do it, just do a croque monsieur. It's so much better, and it's not that difficult to make at all. I mean, really, you just saw how quickly I made that. Beginning to end, assuming you have all the ingredients on hand, and they're mostly common ingredients. Maybe you don't keep Gruyere in your fridge on a regular basis, but you can get Gruyere at the store. Everything else you should probably have. You should probably keep some herb de Provence around. It's good for throwing onto chicken, certain fish dishes, those sorts of things. You should keep them around. I keep forever. Almost forever. So really the Gruyere is the only thing that you might not actually have on hand on a regular basis, and you can get that. And from beginning to end, maybe 15 minutes. It's not that hard. And if you have a toaster oven, if you're just doing like 1 or 2 servings for just you and that special someone, you don't dirty a whole lot of pots and pans, and it takes like 15 minutes to make. It's not hard. And again, it's so much better and actually quicker than the Velveeta Star Casserole. So, on that note, I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you have any other suggestions for things that I should try out on this channel, please leave me a note in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Thanks.